Sorry about that. I keep on having some technical difficulties as I navigate this vertical live stream format. I apologize, but I'm here. Forgive me. All right, so let's start at the beginning here, and thanks for joining me back in here. Sorry, it's second time this is happening. Okay. So this topic is something that I have run across in some of my, science reading and, following science programs and just my now, disclaimer, I am not a scientist. I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't claim to be a neuroscientist. I always just like to say that I'm a curious cellist. And I'm always interested in how we can use science to help us better understand what it is that we're doing. Okay. And, and so what is the problem? Well, the problem is that we're not making progress. I mean, that's always the problem. We always want to make more progress. We always think that our progress is not fast enough, that we need to make more of it. And there's something hindering our progress, something that there's like a disconnect. We're doing all the things, we're practicing, we're listening, we're using all the strategies, and yet something is, something's getting in our way, right? That's making us not make progress on the instrument. That is always a problem, something that we're always trying to overcome. And of course, there are a multitude of reasons why we might not be making progress on the cello. Could be that we just need to practice, have some better practice habits, need to employ some different strategies. There maybe some things that we're leaving out. But this is just one, and it's a biggie that I think doesn't get talked about enough. And that is the science of touch and how we come to trust ourselves. And when it comes to the brain and learning, one of the recent things that's new, all right, when it comes to learning is how our chemical filled brains, our brains are more than just electrical signals, electrodes and neurons sending the signal here. And it's like, it feels like, as a Gen Xer, that when you would hear stuff about the brain or music in the brain or how the brain works, it's like, well, this part of the brain does this and this part of the brain does that. And, you have all these connections and the electrical signals and all the sort of hardwire stuff that happens inside the human brain. But what's new here in the last decade's wonderful is the counting of, all the chemicals in our brain, all the hormones and how those affect our learning. And so that's what I want to sort of introduce to you here in this little chat, just something to think about. It's food for thought, okay? Again, I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't claim to be a neuroscientist. As I always say, I'm just a curious cellist who wants to share a few things with you in the hopes that it might help you improve your own cello playing and start to make progress. Now, how did I, what's my own personal story to come to this? I've always described an aspect, a habit that I have, and I've always described it as playing away from the cello, where we tense up and our whole being, I've experienced this as a college student, as a performer, and you feel like your hands are literally, you don't even realize you're doing it, pulling away from the instrument. And it's like, why would I be pulling away from the instrument? I'm trying to play the instrument. I'm trying to get my hands and everything into the instrument. Why would I be pulling away from it? But that's literally what happens. And you don't even realize you're doing it. And I've struggled with this physical habit. And of course, many times in my life struggled with not making the progress that I wanted to make. And it's like, why? I'm in here, I'm putting in the time, I'm doing the things and practicing all the stuff and not making any progress. It's like, what is it about what I'm doing that is not making it stick? Okay, and that's always been a part of my journey and always been something that I've wanted to do better at and help other people be better at. And I can remember a time, there have been times in my life where the tension was so bad. I, of course, dealt with tendinitis like everybody else, and had injuries, in carpal tunnel, all sorts, everything that professional musicians can experience on that end. I certainly have experienced them. And what has been the thing to help overcome some of that, that to get the learning to stick in a better way? And some of the things that I've run across in my own reading and listening and following programs like I mentioned is that this new thing of how hormones affect our learning, that our brains are more than just this part does this, they're more than this, just this kind of mechanical electrical engine. They're very, obviously there's this very sort of organic biological, pool of lots of different things going on. And one of the things I ran across is how oxytocin, all right, that your body produces affects learning. I even did and I'll post it here in the description of this video. You can go read the article, where they give rats this. It's not been done on humans, but you give rats these more oxytocin or more of this one hormone, and they remember longer what it is that they're trying to do. They're trying to get through some maze to get to some food or something. But obviously, things like oxytocin and hormones and different things affect learning. Now, why oxytocin specifically, and how, what's the deal with, musical instruments? Oxytocin is the thing in your brain that is linked to, and you're going to see where I'm going with this. Oxytocin is the thing that is linked to touch, right? So when you touch something, an object, another human, in a trusting way, right? In a way that brings connection, all right? Your brain, your body releases a little shot of oxytocin. It's just something that happens in the body. And immediately I thought about, we play these instruments and it's this very physical, very contact thing. And what happens when we, are touching our instruments, connected to our instruments, our hands are on them in a way that is trusting or not trusting, right? I know that I've been in the not trusting camp a lot. And I think that it's a big part of why, when I left undergrad, I always say I was bruised and bloodied. I mean, I needed that training. I needed all those things that my teacher did for me, but man, I did not trust myself at all. Didn't feel like anything had stuck. Obviously some things did stick, all right, and I came out okay on the other end, but I didn't trust much of anything that I was doing on the cello. And so of course that affects your learning. It affects your ability to make progress. It affects your ability to learn anything new or do anything new. And so how do you get past that? And how do you get to this point where you can have an experience when you are playing that you are in contact with your instrument in a trusting way, so that your brain fills up with the good things that make the learning stick? I mean, this is something that is just a revelation to me, because I think it's totally conceivable that this has an incredibly great effect on our learning. And so some things, some strategies, some different things that I think you can use to make a more trusting connection with the instrument. One is, you have to start making decisions about what you think is right and wrong, good and bad. We tend to kind of just play through stuff, and we say, it was okay, or we just say it was all bad, and there's nothing intelligent about that. I've said that before on the channel. You have to say, well, this went well for this reason, and this did not go well for this reason. And that's just so important. And you have to verify, when you record yourself, think about when you've recorded yourself, it's and maybe you record yourself 10 times and you hated the way it sounded, and then on the 11th time you record yourself and you're like, oh, that sounds okay. All right, that's a lot better. And then think about how it feels the next time you go to play your instrument and play through that piece. Think about all of the good things flooding into your brain, flooding into your body, that are now going to make, all that work that you've been doing, going to make it stick, right? Because you listened and you verified, and then you made a decision about what it was that you were doing. And now all of a sudden you trust, right? You trust this thing that you're doing. You're trusting yourself, trusting what you're feeling there on the instrument. That, of course, and I always advocate for the recording stuff. You should always be recording yourself and learning to trust yourself and verify what you're hearing through recording yourself. That's a great one. Another one is just making decisions about what you believe about the sound. Should this be darker? Should it be lighter? Should this, should I slide a little more? Should I never slide here? Does this need a faster vibrato, or a slower vibrato, or a wider vibrato, or a more narrow vibrato? People go on and on and on about the kind of vibrato they're going to use on a note. Should I do a certain bowing here? All right. The more you make those decisions, and then you have good outcomes from that. I mean, you won't always have a good outcome. You might have an outcome that you don't like, but at least you made a decision about it, and then to do something different next time. Yeah. And when you do that something different, or you do it the successful way, or something that gets you a lot of compliments or gets you affirmation that you did a great job, then you have more trust. You start to play in a more trusting way, and then the learning perpetuates itself, I think, from that experience. All right, that's why I mentioned the oxytocin factor. All right, and there's probably other factors. That's just one that I've come across in following following this subject matter, is that when you are connected in this trusting way, when you are touching your instrument, all right, remember this is a very physical activity that we're talking about, and you can't negate that aspect of it. It's not just about listening and analyzing, right? We're not just we're not this sort of two-dimensional black and white beings when it comes to learning and deciding what's right and wrong. It's literally organic, right? It's much more organic than that. Literally organic because of what's going on in our brains. And so, you have to factor in that component of it, I think, if you want to make some more consistent progress. I think it's not something in our day and age with what we know. I don't think it's something that we can afford to ignore. All right, I think it's just a vital part of the conversation when it comes to learning. This idea that, like, how can we trust ourselves more? How can we trust the instrument more? How can we just have more trust of what we're doing? All right, and then all of that just kind of feeds on itself to help the learning stick. Because otherwise, if you don't trust what you're doing, okay, if you don't make any decisions, then there's no foundational emotion, right? All those chemicals, all those hormones, or whatever is at work in our brains to make the learning stick, it's just not there, right? It doesn't happen until we make those decisions, and make those decisions that lead to the trust, that lead to making this deeply emotional, trusting connection with what we are doing. It's so important. It's so very important. And I wish it was a part of the conversation more. I wish I was more knowledgeable. I put things out like this, so maybe hopefully somebody's watching that does know. If you are a neuroscientist or you do know about such things, I hope you'll leave some comments down below for the rest of us mere mortals, because I think it's something that everybody should know more about, so that we can evolve our pedagogy so that we can evolve our vocabulary about how we learn, about how we make these deep connections to what we're doing, and make the learning stick. So yeah, just something that's on my mind always and wanted to share. I will find that article. I'll find the radio program actually that I listened to that was that introduced this idea to me, and you can see what you think. Start a conversation in the comments if this is something that is of interest to you, and I will certainly keep talking about it. It's definitely my passion project, because I haven't, I've had so many times in my life where I struggled. That's why one of the reasons I have the YouTube channel, because I didn't have regular weekly lessons until I was a college student. I didn't have a lesson period until I was a freshman in high school, and they were kind of irregular. And I've talked about my very first teacher. He was an amazing man. I tried to reconnect with him recently, and I think he's retired, and I couldn't get his contact info, but he was an incredible human being that gave me free cello lessons. Spencer Brewer, wherever you are in the world, I will cherish you always. But I struggled a lot. I struggled a lot, and I was way behind my peers, and all the bad stuff perpetuates too. When we don't trust ourselves, when we're not making this connection with what we're doing, that just kind of feeds on itself, and why I probably still to this day have to catch myself playing away from the cello, not getting into what I'm doing, not making that trusting connection, and not stopping to make enough decisions. And then I tense up, and, because I noticed even just practicing the piano, and which is, I think, probably what inspired me to come and say this to you all now, is that it's like, this is just a clay thing, right? It's something that I do, and I wish I didn't do it. I wish I was better at it. I wish that I could play and practice in a better way, in a more efficient way, on a more regular basis. I think I'm getting there. I think I'm getting there. After 30 years, I'm finally making some progress toward that. But anyway, so I am struggling on the journey. I am on the path, just like the rest of you. Just want you guys to know that. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, letting me rant there a little bit at the end. And as always, I appreciate all of you out there, and I will see you in the next one. Some interesting things coming for Cello Online. I know I've been kind of not posting some of the longer form videos here recently, but spring break's coming. Hopefully I have a chance to get some more recordings made and get some more stuff out there to you all. We appreciate it so much. You're so welcome. Yeah, everybody, yeah, you're so welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out, and for everything you do to support the channel. Can't say it enough. All right. Good night, everybody, or wherever you are in there. Where are you guys out there in the world? It's about, 10:30 here, Central Standard Time in the St. Louis area. I'm on my phone here, but I can still see the chat messages. A little water there. Oh wow. I love that we're like from all over the world. That's awesome. Toronto. I hope to go there one day. Still haven't been. Love to make it to Thailand too. I have an uncle that's actually traveled to Thailand. He told me one time it was one of his favorite places. One of these people that's just traveled all over the world. Finally settled in Spain. I think he's there in Spain. I couldn't tell you what city though. But anyway. All right, guys. Thank you so much again, and I will see you in the next one very soon.